Welcome to Realizing Real Estate. Each week we will be issuing a new edition, an interview with an investor, developer, business leader, government official, scholars, and others, all who in some way impact the world of real estate and the quality of your investment. Real estate has many facets. We will explore many of them in these brief podcasts. Every one of our guests will be interviewed in greater depth and length on our weekly radio show, Our House, which is broadcast every Saturday at 9 a.m. on WBN 9:30 a.m. and 98.5 FM HD3 in the Buffalo Niagara Marketplace, but is accessible anywhere in the world on the Odyssey app or at WBN.com. All of Realizing Real Estate podcasts are available at the iTunes Store, and our House radio shows are archived on our blog at huntrealestate.com. Join us every week and give us your feedback and suggestions for future topics, also at huntrealestate.com. Welcome to Realizing Real Estate. This is a regular new episode of our podcast, which is designed to help you protect and enhance your investment in real estate through the eyes of my guests and also through our perspective on the real estate market as it exists today. And to discuss this with me today is Brian Posner, who is the geothermal specialist at NOCO. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Peter.
It's good to have you here. Brian, you have we were just talking earlier a little bit about your career. Tell us a little about how you got where you are.
Absolutely. So I'm a Western New York native. I went to Amherst Middle School, high school, ended up going up to Vermont for college at the University of Vermont, got into finance, from there into energy, into solar, and then geothermal. And now these days I do some teaching, I do some sales, I do some community education, but it's exciting to be part of this conversation.
It's great to have you here. We've talked in the past, and I know this is kind of your life, about the issue of sustainability. Define that, and then also define what you're doing in your industry and in your particular position to further that cause.
So sustainability at this point is going to generally be any set of practices or efforts that we can make that are going to use less energy or a different type of energy than fossil fuels to attain a certain outcome, with, again, the idea that we have a limited amount of fossil fuel on this planet, however abundant, but we do truly have an unlimited supply of sunlight, wind, and water energy. So if we can utilize those to create our energy rather than burning fuels, that will ultimately put us on a more sustainable path to better help the planet and to better manage our own energy.
Is the objective ultimately to create a healthier existence for us? Because it seems to me that in the process of all this pursuit of sustainability, we as a society, particularly in the United States, have gotten less healthy.
I completely agree with you. And I think the idea is to make the planet more healthy rather than ourselves. Well, there are certainly health-related risks of burning fossil fuels. They typically don't impact us as much as they used to. And that's with modern safety equipment. You know, if your furnace has flame impingement, isn't combusting all the gas or oil you're putting through it, and therefore putting unnecessarily large amounts of byproduct into the home or into the exhaust system. Well, the exhaust systems are set up by code to be at the right angle or the right distance to safely remove that from your home. But moreover, the systems have automatic shutoffs if they notice those gases going back into them. So that's all to say, I think we're at the point where we have enough safeguards where the physical health impact on people isn't necessarily what we're trying to improve. We're trying to improve the physical health impact on the planet, since, NOCO isn't getting into the conversation of what percentage of global warming is natural and what percentage is man-made. That's not a conversation we want to put our hat into, but we do know we're affecting it, whether it's a little or a lot.
I recently watched a mini-series about the CIA and the mafia.
Now we're getting
everybody's smoked. They're driving, these huge cars that are spewing out fumes and stuff like that. But they seemed slimmer. They seemed pretty happy living the way it's obviously that segment of life is not what I would describe as happy, but the fact of life is that people seem to be doing okay. And so the health aspect of this has been largely a part of that argument. We should go in the direction of less fossil fuels because we'll be a healthier society and a cleaner air. And the cleaner air will help us all. Now, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Let's talk about what you're really up to. And really the the viability of it. How many, I guess, how often and when should somebody consider what you're doing? When is a geothermal system right to install in any home?
A geothermal system is going to be most ideal when you need to put a new system in to begin with. So that means either new builds or when your existing home has a system that needs to be replaced. Right now, the cost of installing a geothermal system is very, very similar to conventional equipment. It can even cost less.
With the tax credits. And go over those in a second.
Yes, with the incentives, a geothermal will typically cost less than what we consider top of the line, say an air source heat pump or a dual fuel system. Well, geothermal is more efficient than both of those, but it costs less to install. The only thing that costs less than geothermal at this point with its incentives would be a conventional furnace and AC. But even then, you're still in the good neighborhood of $15,000+. So when your system needs to be replaced or you're building a new build, both of those are great times to consider a geothermal system.
With the push towards electrification, though, the cost burden seems to be significant for the average homeowner. Some are saying $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 to convert from all gas to all electric, or gas and oil, whatever the combination whatever system you might be operating now. So a lot of people just say, well, why would I do that? I mean, why would I do that? And also because it's generally believed that in some cases with our weather pattern that electric just can't make it as comfortable as a whole electric system, no matter how it's generated. It's just not as comfortable as a traditional gas or oil system even.
So what they're getting into there is the actual temperature you're putting into your home. A fossil fuel powered boiler will make hot water at, say, around 180 degrees. Geothermal might make that hot water around 110 degrees. Forced air fossil fuel system might make hot air at 140 degrees or so. Geo will make hot air at around a good 110 degrees or so. So either way, you're looking at this idea of still having enough heat to heat your home, but you're not going to have such high heat that you're going to notice it as much. And what I mean there is everything's relative when it comes to temperature. Since our bodies are roughly 100 degrees, well, when we feel, say, 110 degree air coming into our home, it might even feel cool to the touch. So people might go, I don't even know if this is working, even though their set point is, say, 70, 75 degrees, whatever they're heating to, while they're still there. It's that relative temperature that they're noticing and missing. So it's definitely a different type of heat. Now, again, a very important point. Geothermal systems can still heat your home up to 80, 85 degrees. Whatever your set point is, you can still achieve it. But again, it's that relative temperature that seems to throw people off a little bit, since, and understandably so, they're used to putting their hand by a register and feeling hot air.
Is a geothermal system, is it essentially a forced air system?
Forced air or hydronic. It can be a water-to-water or a water-to-air heat pump.
Hot water.
Yes.
So you could have baseboards or radiators even.
Oh, absolutely.
Geothermal system. But you'd have to have ductwork, obviously, for the air conditioning as well.
Correct.
And my experience is, personal experience, is that ductwork also is the hot air system. And as you describe, you turn it on and it'll feel cool. So is it just awkward for us as the way we've been living, for us to consider these things? And is there a big leap of faith that has to go into this? You described the temperature variance, which doesn't seem to be, 110 degrees seems like a lot of hot air to me, but is there a leap of psychological faith that we have to go through to buy into these new systems?
Yes, there certainly is a little bit. We're creatures of habit, creatures of comfort. Doing things outside our norm doesn't come easily to us. But when you are changing a whole paradigm, it's something that's naturally going to come with it. With geothermal, you're installing the heat exchange infrastructure to heat and cool that house for longer than the house will be standing. The high-density polyethylene piping we use is what they use for cross-country natural gas lines. This stuff will never leach into the soil. It'll never degrade. It'll never go away. We're also changing the paradigm with the idea that right now your thermostat calls for heat, your system turns on, puts high heat into the area, and then turns off till it needs to turn back on again. With geothermal, you're going to be running almost 24/7 at that lower heat output, such that your temperature never is able to drop down. So it's more comfortable in the idea you have more even temperature and you never need to experience those swings. But like we were talking about, it does change for a lot of people with that relative temperature. It is something you got to get used to, even though you have the exact same home temperature you might have had before.
We talked a little bit about the cost of this, and you mentioned that with the tax credits, et cetera, that the cost gets down to around $20,000. I'm just using broad numbers now. But the real cost of the system might be $50,000, let's say.
Oh, yeah.
For a lot of people, that's just a big number. If they're looking at a house that might be worth $250,000 to say, well, if I put $50,000, even with the tax credits, what if I go to sell that house? Will my house be worth more because it's got a geothermal system? And I don't know if you've got any data along these lines, but we certainly have that question asked of us from time to time.
Oh, I'd imagine. You guys are usually who I call when I'm trying to grab data. We do certainly see geosystem homes sell for more. Now, we can't put exact metrics on that because it still entirely depends on the demand in that particular neighborhood, that time of the year, the other aspects of the home. So in some cases, we see those homes sell for 10, 20, 30 grand over asking. Sometimes we see much more than that, especially in this type of market. But when the market is this hot, it's hard to figure out what's elevated price due to market conditions, what's elevated price due to geo. Ultimately, I'd put the value on it of operating efficiency in the same concept as solar. If you can show someone your electric bills, that you have solar and you've had an $18 electric bill for years straight. If you can show someone that with geothermal, you've had cooling AC bills of $20 extra in the summer and $40 to $80 extra in the winter, then those are tangible benefits for the new homeowner to know, hey, I'm not spending a few $100 on these utilities every month. I'm dropping that significantly down. And if you multiply that over years or even decades, all of a sudden those savings become exponential. So it is a nuanced situation, but typically people see vast improvements in their comfort and their spend.
Well, we as an industry, from our side of the equation here, need to figure out how to translate those dollars into affordability. We've looked at taxation, for example, in that way. If your taxes go up or go down by a certain amount, what does that mean in terms of the affordability of your home and also thus its value? And I think if we can translate that, we'll all be better off. So just to, we only have a minute or so left here. How would you advise people listening to this or watching this podcast what step would they take next? How would they get in touch with you, for example? How would they learn more about all the alternative forms of energy production?
Absolutely. So the best route is always just to go to NOCO.com. That's NOCO.com. And you can see our full suite of residential services, from heating, cooling, to solar, to generators, to insulation, to plumbing, and so much more. So it's a really exciting time for us here. So you can always look at the website, decide which division you want to contact, or if you just want to call the general NOCO number to ask us some questions. You can also come to our seminars. You'll see that our next seminar is April 15th at the Cowboy in Hamburg. There's a link to it right at the top of our webpage, so certainly our website can get you to that too. And then if all else fails, give me a call or text. My personal cell phone number is 716-866-1597. And for any of your listeners, they're always welcome to call in if they're looking for one of our services, or even if they just have general questions about energy and efficiency.
Well, energy generation and efficiency is certainly something that we're going to be wrestling with for a long time. And we have been for a while now, and the role that government will play in all this is they're already playing a great role in it. It's going to be something that we're going to be debating for some time to come. And it's very important for us to have this conversation. Brian, thanks very much for being with us. Brian Posner, the geothermal specialist at NOCO. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Peter.
I'd like to thank our listeners and viewers. We'll be back again soon with the next episode of Realizing Real Estate.